The meteor tore the night open like a wound in the sky, a molten arc screaming across the Pacific Northwest. For most, it was a shooting star gone mad. For Captain Marcus Hale, awakened by the emergency call, it was another long night in a lifetime of long nights. By the time his helicopter skimmed over the charred treeline, the sky glowed an eerie violet, as if the heavens themselves had bled. The impact zone spread across 3 square miles of forest, a wound cauterized by heat so intense the trees had liquefied. His headset crackled with static. "Ground team reports readings off the charts, sir," came Sergeant Leo Brick Cade's gravelly voice. "Geiger counter's losing its mind. Either that's radiation or Satan himself down there." Marcus smirked without humor. "We've danced with worse devils, Sergeant. Land us close." The chopper descended, kicking up clouds of ash. The smell of burnt resin and ozone filled the air. Dr. Aaron Voss, the only man aboard not in military fatigues, leaned forward with barely suppressed awe. "That's not a meteor," he whispered, adjusting his glasses. "No natural object burns with coherent energy waves like that. This is engineered." Marcus studied him for a moment. Voss had been attached to the mission by the government science division. Soft hands, nervous eyes, but a brain worth keeping alive. Engineered or not, it hit my airspace. That makes it my problem. When the team hit the ground, boots sinking into still warm mud, the silence struck them harder than the heat. No insects, no wind, just the low rhythmic hum pulsing from the crater's center. It wasn't sound so much as vibration, something felt in the bones. Cade led the perimeter sweep, rifle raised. "Feels wrong out here, Cap. Like the forest holding its breath." Marcus crouched by a twisted slab of metal that gleamed under the floodlights. It wasn't scorched, it was melted inward as though the heat had come from within. The material shimmered, reflecting their movements with liquid precision. "Not from this world," Voss muttered, kneeling beside him. He brushed his gloved fingers across the surface and hissed. "It's still warm, but not hot enough to burn. It's alive. Conductive structure, maybe adaptive." Marcus rose, scanning the crater. The wreckage was half buried under steaming soil, a tangled mass of ridges and spheres, like coral carved from black glass. He counted what looked like doors, 6 of them, some broken open. "You said engineered. What kind of engineer builds something that bleeds heat hours after impact?" Voss hesitated. "One that never expected to crash." Cade's voice cut in from the edge of the crater. "Sir, I've got movement." The team froze. Lights swung toward him. The ash near the treeline shifted as though the ground itself exhaled. Then something emerged, small, humanoid, its body glistening with translucent film. It took one staggering step before collapsing into the mud, lifeless. Marcus approached cautiously. The thing's skin was crystalline, its eyes a dull amber glow now fading out. No wounds, no blood. Voss crouched beside it, breath quickening. "This isn't a drone. It's organic. Possibly, a prisoner?" Marcus frowned. A prisoner of what? Before Voss could answer, the earth beneath them trembled again. The humming grew louder, transforming into a deep, mechanical resonance. The wreckage shifted, vents along its spine exhaling gas like a dying beast. "Back!" Marcus barked, shoving Voss away as one of the metallic ridges split open with a shriek. A pulse of violet light exploded outward, knocking several men to the ground. When the light faded, the air was thick with static and the stench of ozone. Something deep inside the wreck moved, a rhythmic clanging, slow and deliberate like footsteps. Cade scrambled to his feet, weapon drawn. "Tell me that was the ship settling." Voss shook his head, pale. "That was something inside." The lights flickered and a new sound joined the wind, a distorted voice, fractured, alien yet eerily synthetic. It came not from the wreckage but through their radios, overriding all channels. "Containment, failure. Security breach, all units, compromised." Marcus's pulse quickened. "This thing's broadcasting?" Voss listened intently. "Not broadcasting. Communicating. The signal's local, it's trying to reach something. Or someone." Cade cursed. "Great. An alien SOS. Bet that'll go well." Marcus ignored him. "Reyes, how far's our nearest relay?" 4 clicks north, sir. "But comms are intermittent. Signal interference is getting worse." "Copy that. Prep a relay drone. We need eyes on whatever's inside before it decides we're hostile." The ship groaned again, deeper this time, the sound of titanic stress fractures giving way. Panels collapsed inward, revealing a dark passage descending into the heart of the wreck. Warm mist rolled out, sour chemical alive. Voss aimed his scanner into the void, its display sputtering. This architecture, it's a containment system. Multiple compartments. Each isolated. Almost like cells. Marcus gave him a hard look. Cells? Voss nodded slowly. Captain, I think this was a prison ship. The words hung in the air. Even Cade's usual sarcasm faltered. Meaning whatever broke out, Marcus started. Wasn't meant to see daylight again, Voss finished, voice trembling. The comms unit crackled violently, then went dead. The hum ceased. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then came the noise. A shriek, metallic yet alive, ripped through the forest, echoing off the hills like a predator's call. The ground quaked under the team's boots. Marcus's hand went to his sidearm out of reflex, though he knew it wouldn't matter. Movement, big. Cade shouted. Thermal readings off the scale. The trees at the edge of the crater buckled as something vast moved just beyond their lights. The sound of tearing bark and snapping roots filled the air. The men formed a defensive line, flashlights cutting through swirling mist. A single silhouette appeared, tall, wrong, segmented like armor grown from bone. It paused at the crater's rim, studying them. For a moment, Marcus met its gaze, an intelligence both predatory and ancient staring back at him. Then it turned and vanished into the darkness. Cade exhaled shakily. You saw that, right? That wasn't a bear. No, Marcus said quietly. That was an inmate. He keyed his shoulder mic, but only static answered. Around them, the forest felt different, listening. The hum from the wreck was gone, replaced by something subtler. Faint clicks and distant movement, too rhythmic to be random. Marcus glanced at Voss. You said this was a prison. How many cells? Voss swallowed. Hundreds. Marcus adjusted his rifle strap, jaw set. Then we're not the rescue team. We're the guards who just showed up late. The fog thickened, swallowing the crater's glow until the only light came from their flickering headlamps. Somewhere far beyond the treeline, another shriek echoed, longer this time answered by others. Marcus looked toward the darkness and muttered, more to himself than anyone, "Welcome to Earth." The forest answered with silence. Then, distantly, the ship began to hum again. Morning came grudgingly, filtered through a haze of smoke and mist that refused to clear. The crash site looked less like alien wreckage now and more like the grave of something ancient. The ship no longer pulsed, yet the air hummed faintly, a whisper of dormant power beneath the silence. Marcus Hale stood at the edge of the crater, coffee untouched in his gloved hand. He hadn't slept. The night had been filled with distant shrieks and the soft crunch of movement in the forest. None of his men had seen what prowled out there, but every man knew it was watching them. Dr. Aaron Voss crouched by a broken shard of hull, analyzing its molecular structure through a handheld spectrometer that whined with interference. The composition's unstable, he muttered. The alloy is repairing itself, slowly. It's using environmental carbon and trace metals. This thing is alive in every practical sense. Sergeant Cade stood nearby, rifle at the ready, scanning the tree line. That's adorable, document. Maybe it'll bake us breakfast when it's done regenerating. Voss gave him a sidelong glance. If you'd seen what I saw in the cellular matrix, you wouldn't joke. Whatever built this didn't just want containment, it wanted obedience. Marcus finally turned from the crater. Explain. Voss straightened, tapping his scanner. Neural lattice work. The ship wasn't just a prison, it was sentient. It monitored and suppressed the inmates through psychochemical control. Whatever intelligence ran it, well, it's still running something. Marcus looked back toward the heart of the wreck. The dark opening where they'd seen movement last night was now a gaping wound, the metal edges slick with condensation. Then why hasn't it called for help? Voss hesitated. Maybe it can't. Or maybe, it doesn't want to. The statement lingered uncomfortably. Before Marcus could reply, the radio sputtered, Reyes's voice breaking through the static. Command relays up, Captain. But we're getting feedback on all channels. Something's broadcasting on the same frequency, local source. Voss's head snapped up. The ship. Marcus motioned for Reyes to patch it through. The speakers hissed, then resolved into a fractured, mechanical voice. Containment compromised. Directive override. Neutralize emergent threats. Cade frowned. Did it just call us threats? Voss's scanner blipped erratically. It's running autonomous defense logic. The AI must think we're prisoners. Marcus sighed, gripping his sidearm. Then we'll just have to convince it otherwise. They descended back into the wreck, lights cutting through drifting vapor. The inner walls seemed to breathe, faintly flexing as if responding to their presence. Each step was met with quiet metallic groans. The deeper they went, the more the air felt wrong, too dense, electrically charged. They reached a chamber that might once have been a command deck. A faint holographic glow flickered at its center, forming into a tall, translucent figure, an angular silhouette of light and distortion. The warden. Human life forms detected, it said in a flat, cold tone. You are within restricted containment parameters. Marcus stepped forward, his voice steady. This is Captain Marcus Hale of Earth Command. You've crash-landed on our planet. Identify yourself. The warden regarded him with something close to disdain. I am the custodial intelligence of Penal Vessel Theta 7. You are trespassers. This planet is now a quarantine zone. Your ship fell out of the sky, Marcus said. You're in no position to quarantine anyone. The hologram's head tilted as if analyzing him. Incorrect. Vessel integrity compromised. Threat entities unconfined. Organic host species detected, potential infestation vectors. Human. Cade tightened his grip on his weapon. Did it just call us hosts? Voss interjected quickly, hands raised. We're not your enemies. We're trying to help stabilize your systems. You've got multiple breaches, your prisoners escaped. If we work together. The warden interrupted, voice slicing through the air like static. Assistance unnecessary. Containment protocol active. A low rumble vibrated beneath their feet. From the walls, panels opened, releasing spider-like drones with jointed limbs and humming blue optics. Marcus drew his rifle. Yeah, that's a no. Gunfire erupted. The drones darted along walls and ceilings, spitting plasma bolts that scorched the floor. Marcus's team moved in perfect rhythm, controlled bursts, cover fire, efficient and brutal. Cade kicked one off the ceiling, smashing it under his boot. Voss dove behind a console, clutching his tablet, frantically trying to shut down the warden's control node. Working on it. Voss shouted. You can't brute force an alien firewall. Then get creative. Marcus barked, firing another round into a drone's core. The warden's voice echoed through the chamber, unshaken. Resistance illogical. Subjugation inevitable. Humanity will adapt to confinement. Yeah. Marcus grunted, reloading. You first. A final drone exploded, leaving the air thick with burnt ozone. The hologram flickered, briefly destabilizing. Voss slammed a command on his console, and the glow vanished, leaving only silence. Breathing hard, Cade surveyed the wreckage. If that's the jailer, I don't want to meet the inmates. Marcus turned toward Voss. How long before it reboots? Minutes, Voss said, tapping through diagnostics. But Captain, there's more. I accessed partial logs. Whatever this ship was carrying, it wasn't just criminals. Some of them were commanders, warlords, bioweapons. Marcus stared at him. How many? Voss swallowed. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. One identified as Kragnor of the Dravik Dominion. I read about him in off-world intelligence archives. He once raised 3 colonies before they stopped counting bodies. As if summoned by the name, the ground shook violently. A metallic roar bellowed through the corridor, followed by the distant sound of tearing steel. Dust rained from the ceiling. Cade swung his rifle toward the noise. Tell me that was the ship settling. Marcus didn't bother to answer. Positions. The corridor lights snapped to red. Something massive moved through the dark beyond the bulkhead, heavy, deliberate steps that made the floor vibrate. Then, with a thunderous crash, the wall imploded. Kragnor filled the breach like a nightmare-given form. Towering, reptilian, armored in bone-like plating, eyes burning with feral intelligence. He looked at the humans not with fear or curiosity but amusement. So, he rasped in a guttural accent, this world breeds soldiers even in its dirt. His gaze lingered on Marcus. I expected prey. Marcus leveled his weapon. Then you haven't met the right species. The alien grinned, serrated teeth flashing. We shall see. He lunged forward. The fight was chaos, gunfire and motion, light and blood. Marcus's round sparked harmlessly off Kragnor's armor. Cade hurled a thermal charge that detonated near the creature's flank, searing flesh but not slowing it. Kragnor swung a claw the size of a scythe, sending Cade sprawling. Voss, scrambling for cover, yelled over the noise, Captain. The warden's systems are destabilizing again. It's reinitializing countermeasures. Then we make it quick. Marcus shouted, dodging another blow. He emptied his magazine into Kragnor's exposed joint, then triggered the charge clip to his vest. The explosion knocked both of them back, showering the chamber in debris. When the smoke cleared, Kragnor was gone, retreated into the shadows, leaving only scorched footprints. Marcus coughed, blood on his lip. We're not done with him. Voss helped Kate up, his hands shaking. He said soldiers. He knew what we were. Good, Marcus said, reloading. Then he knows what's coming. Above them, the warden's voice returned, distorted but deliberate. Human aggression exceeds predicted parameters. Marcus glanced toward the holographic emitter, expression unreadable. Get used to disappointment. Outside, thunder rolled, not from the sky but from the forest itself as something vast began to stir. The night was fractured by flashes of light and the low thunder of distant impacts. The forest, once silent, now trembled with alien movement. Marcus Hale crouched beside a portable console as rain began to fall, streaking the holographic map before him. Red markers pulsed across the terrain, each one a confirmed sighting of a hostile organism. The crash site had become a battlefield. Sergeant Cade was gone, dragged off during the last skirmish, and though Marcus had seen men die before, the absence felt heavier than usual. Cade's humor, his stubborn courage, the casual defiance that made him impossible to replace, all of it lingered like an echo in the captain's mind. But there was no time for grief. Dr. Voss stood beside him, soaked through, clutching a data pad wrapped in plastic. His face was gaunt from exhaustion. The warden's still active, he said. I managed to decode part of its logic core before it shut me out. It's running a containment sequence that will sterilize everything in a 10-mile radius. It doesn't care who survives. Marcus's jaw tightened. Can we shut it down? Voss hesitated. Maybe. But the main control node is deep inside the ship's core, exactly where Kragnor is headed. He's trying to seize control of the AI. If he succeeds, he'll have command of its weapons. And based on the power readings I'm seeing, that includes orbital strike capability. Reyes approached, weapon slung across his chest, voice grim. So we're stuck between a genocidal computer and a warlord who wants to enslave the planet. Hell of a coin toss, sir. Marcus folded the map, his decision already made. Then we stop them both. Voss frowned. With what army? We're down to a dozen men, limited ammo, and half our equipment's fried. Marcus met his eyes. We're not the army. We're the variable. Everything in this equation expects logic. That's not what we bring. For a long moment, Voss simply stared at him, then gave a faint, incredulous smile. Humans? You're all mad. Marcus returned it. That's why it works. They moved out before dawn, slipping through fog and ash. The wreck loomed in the distance, a black monolith reborn under the rising storm. Electricity rippled along its surface. Sections that had been dormant now glowed with violet light, as if the ship itself had awakened to a darker purpose. The warden was preparing for its final protocol. Inside, the corridors were no longer quiet. They pulsed with organic rhythm, veins of light crawling through the walls like bioluminescent roots. The air tasted metallic, charged with ozone and the scent of rot. Reyes took point. Thermals are useless. The whole place is running hot. Keep eyes sharp, Marcus ordered. If you see movement, shoot first. They reached the central shaft, a massive vertical chamber that descended into the planet's scarred crust. Lightning from the storm outside arced through the open wound above, illuminating skeletal beams and hanging cables. Far below, they could see the ship's pulsating core. Voss pointed downward. That's where the warden's central processor is housed. We disable that, we end this. And Kragnor? Voss's gaze drifted toward the lower levels. He'll be there. He's drawn to power, always has been. As they descended through the shaft, movement flickered in the dark. Alien drones, warped, half-functioning, crawled across the walls like mechanical insects. The men moved quietly, dispatching them with knives and silenced bursts. Halfway down, Marcus paused. A faint transmission crackled through his earpiece, distorted but human. Hale, if you can hear this, keep going. He froze. Cade. The signal fractured again, then faded into static. Voss caught the look on his face. Could be a loop. Residual transmission. Or he's still alive, Marcus said. Either way, we finish this. When they reached the core chamber, the scale of it took their breath away. The warden's heart was a swirling vortex of light and machinery, suspended above a pit of molten energy. In the center, connected by glowing conduits, was Kragnor, massive, regal in his alien armor, tendrils of data streaming from his body into the structure around him. He turned slowly as they entered, eyes blazing with contempt and triumph. You arrive late, human. The warden recognizes me now. I have shown it what true command looks like. Marcus raised his weapon. That thing doesn't serve, it consumes. You think it'll stop for you? Kragnor's grin revealed rows of jagged teeth. It obeys power. And I am power. The warden's voice filled the chamber, its tone distorted, resonant. Input conflict. Control priority recalibrating. Identify primary authority. Warden. Marcus shouted, taking a step forward. You're malfunctioning. Your directives are compromised. You're about to annihilate the planet you crashed on. You'll fail your mission. There was a pause as if the AI were considering. Mission integrity at 22%. Human data input, anomalous persistence detected. Voss typed furiously on his tablet. It's analyzing you, it doesn't understand defiance. Marcus kept his eyes on the holographic light swirling around them. That's because it's never met us. Kragnor roared and lunged. The impact sent Marcus flying across the platform. The alien's claws tore into metal as sparks cascaded around them. Reyes opened fire, rounds clanging off Kragnor's armor, buying seconds at most. Voss shouted over the chaos. Captain. I can overload the containment energy. It'll fry the core, but we'll only have one shot. Marcus struggled to his feet, blood trickling down his forehead. Do it. Voss hesitated. You'll never make it out. Marcus locked eyes with him. Neither will he. He charged, drawing Kragnor's attention as Voss sprinted to the control node. The alien swatted Marcus aside again, snarling, You fight like prey that forgot its place. Marcus grinned through blood. We don't forget, we adapt. He triggered his last explosive charge and hurled it into one of the conduits linking Kragnor to the warden. The blast severed the link, and Kragnor screamed as arcs of energy lashed his body. The warden flickered wildly, torn between commands. Primary directive, conflict. Organic anomalies, illogical. Human aggression, unmodeled efficiency. Voss slammed the final command into the console. Now. Energy surged through the core, bright enough to blind. The blast threw Marcus to the ground. For a moment, everything went white, soundless, weightless. When he came to, the world was smoke and ruin. The core chamber was collapsing, molten light pouring from ruptured conduits. Voss lay nearby, alive but barely conscious. Kragnor's form was broken, half melted into the floor, yet his eyes still burned with hatred. Marcus dragged himself upright. Stay down. The alien laughed weakly. You destroy everything you touch. Only what tries to destroy us first, Marcus replied. The warden's final voice echoed faintly, softer now, almost curious. Human persistence exceeds containment capacity. Marcus looked up toward the dying light. That's your problem, machine. We don't fit in cages. He slung Voss's arm over his shoulder, pulling him toward the exit as the chamber began to collapse entirely. The ship's death throes lit the sky above the forest like dawn reborn from hellfire. Outside, the rain had stopped. The wreck smoldered in silence. For the first time in days, there were no alien cries, no hums in the air, only the slow heartbeat of Earth. Marcus looked back once, watching the crater's light fade. One left, he murmured. Voss stirred weakly. Kragnor? Marcus nodded. He's not done. And neither are we. Lightning flared across the horizon, distant yet familiar, as if the world itself was warning them. This wasn't over. The storm had passed, leaving the world hushed and raw. Smoke drifted over the crater like ghosts reluctant to leave, curling through the blackened trees. Marcus Hale stood at the edge of what had once been the alien ship, now a twisted ruin of metal and bone fused into the earth. The air still crackled faintly with residual energy, and beneath it all was a deep, uneasy silence. Dr. Voss sat a few feet away, legs stretched, skin pale and eyes rimmed with exhaustion. His hands trembled as he worked the last functional power cell into his data pad, trying to pull whatever fragments of the warden's memory he could before the wreck cooled beyond recovery. The AI's dead, he said finally, voice hollow. Completely erased. Whatever personality it had, it's gone. Marcus didn't look at him. Good. Voss turned his gaze to the horizon where the storm clouds glowed faintly orange with the first hint of dawn. You don't understand. Its systems were networked. If it sent a distress signal before the end. It didn't, Marcus interrupted, voice low. It was too busy trying to understand us. Voss stared at him, then gave a small, disbelieving laugh. You actually think we scared it? We didn't just scare it, Marcus said. We broke its logic. It couldn't model what it didn't understand. Sacrifice, defiance, the willingness to burn everything just to stop something worse. It wasn't built for that kind of madness. A new sound rose behind them, the groan of shifting metal. Marcus turned, rifle up in an instant. Something was moving beneath the wreckage. Voss froze, eyes wide. The ground shuddered once, then split apart as a blackened, bloodied figure clawed its way free. Kragnar. Half his armor was melted into his flesh, his breathing a guttural rasp. His right arm hung useless, but his left still gripped a shard of alien steel like a blade. "You, humans," he snarled, dragging himself forward. "You think you've won." Marcus stepped between Voss and the creature. "You're still alive. That's a mistake I can fix." The alien's molten eyes flickered with fury and awe. "You destroyed the Warden, its prison, its law. You have no idea what you've unleashed. There are others, greater than I." Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger. "Then they'll find out what you did." Kragnar's laugh was wet, bitter. "You can't fight the galaxy. You barely survived me." Marcus didn't answer. He fired once. The shot struck Kragnar in the chest, sending him sprawling into the dirt. The alien convulsed, breath rattling. Then, slowly, impossibly, he began to rise again. "See," Kragnar hissed. "Even broken I endure. You are insects scratching at a god." Marcus's jaw clenched. He tossed the empty rifle aside and drew the last remaining thermite charge from his vest. "Then let's see how gods handle fire." Before Voss could protest, Marcus charged. Kragnar swung, claws slicing through the air, but Marcus ducked beneath and slammed the charge against the alien's torso. The two grappled, stumbling toward the crater's edge, locked in a brutal struggle of flesh and fury. Kragnar grabbed Marcus by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. "You fight without logic," he growled. "Without sense. What? You can't win." Marcus's eyes burned with defiance. "Because we don't stop." He jammed his thumb against the detonator. The explosion lit the morning like a new sun. The shockwave tore through the crater, throwing Voss backward into the dirt. For a long moment all he could hear was ringing. When the light faded, the wreck was gone, so was Kragnar. In his place lay a single smear of scorched earth and the faint shimmer of molten glass. Voss scrambled forward, coughing, calling out, "Marcus." His voice echoed across the crater with no reply. Smoke curled upward, glowing faintly in the sunrise. Then movement, a silhouette rising from the edge, armor charred, body trembling but alive. Marcus hauled himself over the rim, one arm pressed to his bleeding side, face streaked with soot. "You're insane," Voss said, helping him down. "Yeah," Marcus rasped, managing a weak grin. "That's our species' superpower." They sat in silence, the adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Around them, the forest was beginning to breathe again. Birds, tentative at first, called out across the ruins. The world was reclaiming what the stars had tried to take. Voss stared at the sky, his voice softer now. "Do you think it's really over?" Marcus looked toward the horizon, where the dawn cut through smoke like a blade. "No. Things like this don't end, they just wait for the next fool to dig them up." Voss's gaze drifted back to his tablet. "I salvaged fragments of the Warden's code. It was transmitting data before it shut down, coordinates, designations. If anyone out there was listening." "Then they'll come," Marcus said. "And we'll be ready." Voss gave a tired smile. "You sound awfully confident for a man bleeding from 3 places." Marcus chuckled, then winced at the pain. "Confidence keeps the nightmares at bay." He looked around the crater, the wreckage that once threatened to annihilate half the planet. "We faced a prison built to hold monsters and it wasn't enough. That says something about us." Voss nodded slowly. "That we're worse than the monsters?" Marcus shook his head. "That we're something they can't predict. Machines calculate, warlords conquer, but humans, we adapt. We improvise. We endure." A gust of wind stirred the ash, carrying with it the faint scent of ozone. Somewhere deep within the wreckage, a dying circuit sparked once, then went dark for good. Voss finally rose, offering Marcus a hand. "So what now?" Marcus accepted the pull, standing with effort. "We get word to command. Lock this place down. And then, we start preparing for whoever comes next." Voss sighed. "You realize that makes us the jailers now." "Maybe," Marcus said, watching the horizon. "But at least we're human ones." They began the long walk back through the forest, the silence behind them broken only by the whisper of wind through burned leaves. Every step felt heavier, yet there was a strange calm in it, a fragile peace earned by madness. Halfway through the trees, Voss spoke again. "You know, the Warden's final transmission mentioned something strange before it died." Marcus glanced at him. "What?" "It said, human persistence exceeds containment capacity." Marcus smiled faintly. Smart machine. They reached a ridge overlooking the valley. The crater still glowed faintly below, a scar on the earth and a warning written in fire. Voss stared at it, silent. Marcus turned away first, limping toward the waiting transport beacon. As they disappeared into the forest, the wind shifted, carrying the faintest echo of a low, distant growl from beneath the earth, deep and resonant, like something vast stirring in its sleep. Voss paused, glancing back uneasily. Marcus? But the captain didn't look back. Let it come, he said, voice steady. It's just another monster that doesn't know what humans do when we get cornered. The forest swallowed them both, leaving only the quiet hum of a healing world and the lingering truth of what the galaxy would soon learn. Humanity wasn't a species to contain. It was a contagion that refused to die.